Hello, and welcome to episode 25 of the Film School podcast this Monday, the 25th of January 2021. I'm joined by a fantastic group of guests. We have the one and only Josh J. Luke. How you doing, Josh?
Good, thanks, mate. Doing well.
Good to hear, good to hear. We have the final girl, Emily Pratt. How you doing, Emily?
Adam, I'm good too, thank you.
That's good. We had a fantastic conversation about your pesto pasta, which was not so good earlier.
Yep, that was actually a lie. I'm pretty disappointed right now. I just didn't want to bring a negative energy to the podcast. So
No, I think you just got to say it how you feel. And last but not least, we have the rom-com expert, Chris Birchie. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you.
Wonderful. So for those of you who don't know, the Film School podcast is a podcast where we talk about all of the films that we've watched throughout the week. And we also jump into two main topics, and the movies this week are Minari, the 2020 film, and Zodiac, the 2007 film. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Film School Pod. Next week's film, I'm going to start the episodes with this listed early, is Sweet River and The Merger, two Australian films. So if you want to join us along and watch those, come and join with us next week. All right, so let's start off with the film Minari. So Minari, as mentioned, is a 2020 American drama film directed by Lee Isaac Chung. It stars Stephen Ewan, Han Yi-ri, Alan Kim, Noel Kate Cho, a whole bunch of Korean actors. It is produced by A24 Studios and was released at Sundance on January 26th, 2020. There is no budget listed or box office because this obviously fell right during COVID times and Sundance movies don't typically do that. It's mostly in Korean and English. So why don't you run us through the plot?
run through the plot, which is on Letterboxd. I'm not doing anything very original here, but basically it's the 1980s, and David, a 7-year-old Korean American boy, is faced with new surroundings and a different way of life when his father Jacob moves their family from the West Coast to rural Arkansas. His mother, Monica, is aghast that they live in a mobile home in the middle of nowhere, and naughty little David and his sister are bored and aimless. When his equally mischievous grandmother arrives from Korea to live with them, her unfamiliar ways arouse David's curiosity. Meanwhile, Jacob, hell-bent on creating a farm on untapped soil, throws their finances, his marriage, and the stability of the family into jeopardy.
Great.
And that is Minari.
Okay, so let's jump into it and go around the circle. What did everyone think of this film? So just so that everyone's aware, this is potentially nominated as a Best Picture for the Oscars. However, I think it actually didn't get the nom and got put into, what do you call it? The international or foreign film category. And lots of people are complaining that it's getting snubbed from the Best Picture. Yeah, well, the Oscars never comes without
Yeah, okay. Yeah, true.
wait,
but are they still nominating 10 films, though? Because if they're nominating 10 films and this doesn't make it, well, this is probably spoiling my opinion of it. That's a bit ridiculous.
I think also, I don't know if they're doing 10 films. Also, last year was such a lackluster year for films.
Exactly.
So, it seems bonkers to me that they wouldn't include this. As it stands, the Oscar nominations are not released yet.
This will definitely get nominated. I would be shocked if they make the decision not to nominate this.
So
I guess I'll start. I really enjoyed this movie. It reminded me a lot of Boyhood, the Richard Linklater movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just achieved pretty much the same feeling and the same sort of the realistic view of life and the struggles of life in the same way without going to the extent of filming for 6 weeks every 6 years while the same kid grew up. I think you got the same sort of connection to the family. You saw their struggles, and I think it painted a very good picture of sort of the American dream not always being how it is usually depicted, and especially for um, especially for immigrants and Korean immigrants here. Whereas you see that, yes, there is the potential, but there's all these outlying factors that come into it and everything like that. And no, I just thought very well acted, very well directed, very well soundtracked. Cinematography was beautiful. Yeah, everything was great.
Okay, Emily, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I think it's a really like just a beautiful movie. Like I think it has a lot of heart. Like it's really like tender. Um, you really like get well, I personally I got quite like kind of emotionally attached to like the family and like when there are those happy moments you do kind of feel their joy. When there's the sad ones, you do feel sad with them. And I also love though that there was like a bit of humor in it as well, particularly with the grandma who came. I really enjoyed her character when she joined the movie, I guess, the family. Yeah, I don't know. I just like it's just a really beautiful movie and the way it's shot's really nice. Like I found it kind of like dreamy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything negative to say about it really. Like I don't know what. Yeah, I gave it a 4.5. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh, maybe I could have given this a 5.
I
But
gave
yeah.
it 4.5 also.
All right, Chris, what were your thoughts?
Look, I think we're just all going to agree on this, which is rare
Ooh.
for the podcast, which is
Adam
awesome.
sent me a
But,
message, which suggests otherwise, but
Adam probably changed his review from like a
So
5
I
or a
actually
3 to a
didn't
1.
put this up on Letterbox.
Right.
Okay. And like, trust me, I was planning on it. I just didn't get around to it. But I didn't actually love this film, which is surprising, because this would seemingly be something that I really enjoy. So sorry, Chris. Just tell me more about what your thoughts were first.
well, I jumped the gun by the sound of it, but I was just going to say exactly what the others have said already. That like the character development in this movie was exceptional. So I was extremely emotionally invested in these characters, and yeah, just so heartfelt and also got that little bit of humor as was already said by Emily with the grandma, and also David, the little kid. His acting is like he's adorable, but also
he's
really humorous. Yeah,
yeah.
with his little heart problem too, and yeah, it's just a really nice story, and just all about trying to create a new life and create a better life, but it not always going to plan. Yeah, so that's all I've got.
Yeah, let's just talk about David for a moment and his little cowboy boots.
Phenomenal.
Oh, the
Phenomenal.
best.
I
So
like
cute.
that they kept like panning across and like putting like watching him put them on and take them off at every chance they got.
Yeah.
All right. So
get into why. No, get into why you didn't like it. Because
Okay.
we'll get through the basics and then we'll talk about some other actual stuff in the movie after we do a spoiler
So
alert. I guess.
I guess like trying to articulate myself. I guess like from the film from the get go, I was interested in the premise. I just don't think it really delivered on the story, and I think that there was such a focus on like Minari, and like I thought that somehow that would tie into the plot, but it was literally such a throwaway. Like the grandma just grew this garden down near the river. I also I don't know. I think the American dream as like a story point didn't work for me, and I think that what am I trying to say? I guess like for me, the characters are really well developed in terms of the Korean family. I didn't quite love the ancillary characters, I suppose. So especially that like the crazy Christian guy just seems like a little bit on the nose, and I think that could have potentially been written a bit better. But like I guess like the contrast to that is in real life, I suppose you don't know the characters that you're surrounded by. I also found that I would have really liked to have known when this film was set, because based on the production design, it was implying that it was quite early, like 1980s, but I couldn't tell if it was like modern day or not. But like I guess they were implying that it was in the
I
past?
think it says in the plot
It-
description 1980s.
Oh, okay,
Correct.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
that wasn't really made clear, and I just
But hold on, the fact that you automatically assumed that it was set in the 80s, doesn't that imply that it was set out? And it doesn't, you don't have to state when something's set if it's kind of obvious.
that's true.
I'm right. I've literally wrote down all your points as if I'm going to debate this. So just
Okay,
get ready.
yeah, no, absolutely, and like, feel free to debate it. So sorry, just to continue, you're right. Like, I think that, like, you know me as just a person who likes films. Like, I do like a happy ending, and I do like some resolution that seems to head in the right direction. I thought the relationship between the husband and the wife, and the way they sort of brushed that off at the end after the fire scene, and didn't even acknowledge it, was kind of like, oh yeah, the farm burned down. We'll just keep continuing to, like, live together. At least that was the implication by the end of the film, and I thought that was totally off character, and I probably would have preferred it to steer in another direction.
I find that
regardless
really
of the trauma.
interesting.
Yeah, I
Mm,
completely disagree with you on this
Same.
one. Tell you why.
Okay, and that's fine. And I just
Because
yeah, sorry, you go.
just on that, sorry to interrupt you. I was just
no.
gonna say, because I found that so just I was like crying during that scene where everything was burning down. I was like, no, sorry, spoilers, everyone. Bit late, but anyway, I was like, no, like, oh, like, he's just gotten a break and now this is happening. Like, I was like, Devo. But then afterwards, like, seeing the family like all come together and, like, you know, the wife and Jacob and Monica kind of like put their differences aside and, like, they all kind of just like supported each other when, like, they needed it the most, I suppose. Like, that's kind of how I looked at it, and I was like, oh, that's like that's what family does, I suppose, and it's kind of nice.
Literally what I wrote down. I wrote
Oh.
families stay together during crisis. And also, like, the whole thing was, like, I felt like families go through this shit where parents argue and think that things are going to be set, but they stay together for the kids a lot of the time. And I think that leads. I'll let you finish because it leads back to my other point.
No. And I understand that viewpoint. I think that, what was I trying to say? That they were trying to stay together for the kids right up until, like, the point where, like, it was very clear that, like, they had that conversation outside the greengrocer where he chose the farm over the family and stuff like that. And for me, that was like the third act where they turned the corner and decided that they were going to go their separate ways, regardless of how invested he was in the farm. And, like, to return back to the farm and have it burned down, and then for the movie to resolve itself without any sort of ramifications for that. I understand you guys saying, like, that it's trying to build. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. It didn't make any sense. And sorry, like, I know that the grandma provided a lot of. This is my other point. I know that the grandma provided a lot of comic relief. I just I think you're right. David and her relationship was great, and the way that it grew was good. I just didn't understand. I guess, like, there's not a lot to understand other than she had immigrated across from South Korea and just needed a place to live. But I just didn't, like, understand why she was an important figure, like, in the film and progressing the story. But I guess, like, there was no point. I guess it was just to show that she was just moving across. I don't know. Sorry,
She moved
Josh?
to help the family.
Yeah, I think she moved to
Definitely
help
did.
the
But
family
did she
out.
help the family?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Initially
She babysitted
until
the kids.
Because, like, yeah.
Well, all right. I've got.
Okay, sorry. Continue. Yeah. I'm interested to hear your points because, like, I don't think that this for me. It's not that I did. Like, let me just definitely preface and say, it's not that I didn't enjoy the film. It's just that it's not a 5 for me. This would be like a 3.5, I think.
What? Those don't exist, though, I thought. Anyway, I think... So, I think most of your criticisms are wrapped up in this idea that storytelling needs to be a set, confined narrative and story, and that the American dream not working as a story point. I don't really think I agree. Because again, it represents the reality of it, it represents the idea of it. And I think that actually leads into the point about the grandma. She also represents that there's a whole thing with David saying that, oh, you're not what a real grandma is. You're supposed to bake cookies. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. And it's this very...
Don't swear. Don't wear
Yeah.
men's underwear.
It's this very media-driven thing that we get this pop culture idea of America, and that's where his ideals of a grandma have come from. And that's where, on an older level, the father's ideas of the American dream come from. Like, you move to America, everything's going to be great. That's sort of the conversation they had outside the doctor's office. We'll move to America and we'll save each other. Like, it's this sort of easy fix-all solution. And I think that this story does a really good job of showing you that no, it's not. There's just life here. And that's why I liked the way it ended too, because you're just getting a portion of these people's lives.
Yeah, slice
like,
of
this
life,
is a
right?
family like anyone else. Yep. And I'll go back to what you were saying about Minari, and you thought it was going to be this big thing about...
Yeah, please elaborate on
think
why they called it Minari.
I think, and this is just what I got when I was actually watching the scene, and this could be me reading too much into it, but when she was explaining it, she was saying that Minari was something that could be loved by people young and old, rich and poor, and everything like that. And I think that was relating to the fact that this story could be understood by sort of everyone. It's family, something we relate to. I had strong connections to a lot of the characters based on relationships I've had in my own family. And yeah, I just think that was sort of what it was referring to. There was something here for everyone, and it could sort of be understood beyond sort of class and social barriers and stuff like that. And the
Was
fact
it
that it's
also?
Korean, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go. That was
Was the Minari, like, I wasn't fully sure, like, I kind of just had a bit of a thought with it, but was it also sort of representing, life goes up and down, like kind of what you're already saying, but it was kind of like the grandma living on to some extent, so you've always got hope, and that things can, no matter whether you're poor or rich, like, things can turn around, and I got something to do with it, being the grandma living on in sort of Minari.
Yeah.
Or the
That's
love of
actually-
the grandma,
yeah.
something like that.
I could see that being like a
Yeah.
undertone and message.
Yeah, like kind of like her leaving like her legacy too, I suppose. Maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Did
Yeah.
everyone love the wife or hate the wife?
I liked the wife. I really
I
liked
didn't
her.
hate her.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was a very realistic character who was responding to the situation she was in very realistically. That's what I liked about this film. Everyone sort of
it
acted
was
in. I
realistic.
could understand everyone's point of view, despite. See, I want to suggest this against a movie I haven't seen, but I sort of know exactly what it's about, and I assume it's like Marriage Story. Have you seen that?
I have
Adam?
seen Marriage Story, and this is
From
way,
what I've-
way better than Marriage Story.
Yeah, but from what I've heard about that, it's one of those movies where every character, you can sort of see where they're coming from, and you hope things work out, but like it's just realism. Like everyone has a different sort of agenda and everything like that.
Yeah. Okay, I think I understand why you guys like this film so much. I don't know, maybe I just didn't connect to the story, and I don't know, just it, like, for some reason it just wasn't perfection.
Yeah,
but I guess, like, now that you've like sort of done a comparison, maybe I went in with the wrong expectations, I suppose. Comparing it to Marriage Story, I think makes a lot of sense, because it's really like they're just they're real people, real characters, and real faults.
I think it watches a lot like Boyhood as well, in a lot of ways. But I really enjoyed Boyhood as well.
So just quickly, just to like jump through different like plot points and different scenes. So the wife, I don't understand. So there was that scene where she was like sitting on the ground and she was like sexing the things. Is that like because she's trying to prove that she like wants to fit into this area and this like location? Is that like part of that? I just didn't.
I thought she was just trying to get quick.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's exactly, yeah. Because I think they got paid on commission by how quickly they got it done and how many they got done.
Also, I thought that there might have been a plot point, where his arm stopped working because he'd worked too hard on the farm, and he dropped all of the like these are just like minor things that just I wanted to know what happened, where he dropped all the chicks on the ground. But there was like a big part of me that was like, did they lose their jobs after that, or was that going to be a plot point? Because it definitely implied that like the manager had seen it. Did you guys notice that, or have any takeaways from that?
Didn't actually leave too much of an impression on me, I don't think.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, I think
Oh, Emily, you're really
Emily's
my
breaking up.
I
a little
thought that
bit.
was just me that Emily's
Yeah,
microphone
no.
was doing that, but
Oh, am I?
it's going to be good listening.
Is
Uh,
it any better now?
a little bit better, but maybe reconnect, because I'll say a couple of things to get back.
Yeah, sorry. Continue.
No, I was going on to a different point. I was just going to say a point before I get lost and completely forget it is I really liked how they showed what it would be like being bilingual growing up as a child and like being able to understand one language, but maybe only being able to speak one language at that point. Like being able to understand two languages, and being able to only speak one at that point.
Yes. Yep.
I thought that was really well done, really well handled. And this was also a Plan B film, so shout out to my boy Brad Pitt, always coming through with the good ones.
Yeah. I liked the penis scene. I thought that was...
Of course you did.
It was such a like cheap laugh, but it got me so good. And then like when they're at church, he's like, "You ding dong don't work." Lost it. So funny.
Well, welcome back, Em.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
Oh, good. Cool.
Do you have any closing thoughts, Emily, just before we jump on to the next film?
The only thing I tried to say before, but I obviously dropped out, was with how you kind of you questioned like him dropping the chickens at work thing.
Mm-hmm.
My take on that was just that like, you know, obviously they're worried about like keeping their jobs and being able to make a living and like living in like, you know, a bit of fear of like making sure they're going to have money to support their family and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that does make sense.
But
It
yeah.
would
That
be
does
like
make sense.
always walking on eggshells when you know that
Mm.
everything's on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does make perfect sense.
Yeah, and like the risk of the farm not working out and being a place to generate
Mhm.
revenue, when such mistakes can occur.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, like there's all these like really nitpicky things, but it's not conducive to the conversation. So let's move on to our next film. Are you guys ready to go for the next film?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
Okay, so the next film is Zodiac, a 2007 American mystery thriller film by David Fincher and a screenplay by James Vanderbilt. It was produced by Paramount Pictures. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Edwards, Brian Cox, Elias Koteas, and it had a budget of 65 to 85 million and a box office of 85 million. And it was, yeah, I already said it was released in 2007. So do you want to take us away with the plot, Josh?
Yeah, so this is about the true story of the investigation of the Zodiac killer, a serial killer who terrified the San Francisco Bay Area, taunting police with ciphers and letters. The case becomes an obsession for three men, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert Downey Jr. And their lives and careers are built and destroyed by the endless trail of clues. Thank you, Letterboxd, for that description.
Okay.
What
was everyone's
yeah.
thoughts? I want to jump to Emily first.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll go last.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'll go. I really enjoyed this film, like way more than I thought I would, because I went in with extremely low expectations.
For David Fincher, Phil, what are you talking about?
I just was totally enthralled by the story, and like I understand Jake Gyllenhaal's like obsession throughout the film. My only criticism of the entire film is the resolution. Not to go into too many spoilers. Damn, that's frustrating. But like,
this is the one I want to call you out on so fucking bad.
Sure. Like, and you can call me out on it in a little bit. Otherwise, cinematography was great. I do think it was a touch too long, like 2 hours and 30-minute runtime. it just kept going. And I feel like there were lots of very unnecessary scenes and scenes of just people walking from one room to another room, and we could have totally skipped those. So I reckon you probably could have cut it down by a third or a quarter. Overall, though, story was great, very suspenseful, very well done. The acting phenomenal. So I had a great time. I put this as a 5 for me.
I just want to address this one part about the ending because when I read your review, I was like, come on, because this case is well known. Like, it is one of the most famous serial killer
Never heard
cases
of it
all
before
time.
watching this film.
And literally the reason why it's so well known is because, spoiler alert, the guy never got caught. And I thought this film had as tight a resolution as it could possibly have given the circumstances. It gives you so close to what you think could possibly be the real answer.
But it gives you that level of doubt.
Because they can't. They literally could not say that this
Absolutely.
guy definitely did it.
You have to understand that I knew the name Zodiac Killer, but I'd never heard any sort of historical events of it. So going into it, I thought that it was going to be a complete resolved story, and it just doesn't end up like that. So
that's true.
I
But I'll get in.
apologize.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just had a laugh with it because I'm like, I thought it. No, I didn't think everyone knew it, but I was like, being a true story that actually plays it fairly close to a certain extent. Like, I thought the ending was as good as it could have been.
Okay, I have some.
Oh, yeah. I was going to agree. That ending, like, this is a huge spoiler, so I don't know if I should say it, but I am going to.
Go
that
for it.
Absolutely.
That ending when Jake Gyllenhaal's character, sorry, is it Jake Gyllenhaal's character or Robert?
Yeah.
Robert, looks into the eyes of the suspected killer, and there's just that acknowledgement, like, because that was the thing that came up earlier when they let the case go. I thought that was really well done. So I disagree with you this time, Adam. But yeah, like I love that scene. I do agree with the length of the movie though. I reckon it could have nearly been like a 3-part sort of like series type thing where because it nearly was like there was a Jake Gyllenhaal as the main person, there was Robert Downey Jr. as the main person for a large chunk, and there was Mark Ruffalo as the main person for a large chunk as well. So it nearly could have been like a 3-part movie in those sort of terms with them sort of leading the story. But yeah, it is a very good movie.
All right. Tear down the house, Emily. Tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, like for me, as everyone has also like kind of noted, just a bit on the long side. Like I think when I was watching this, like I've paused it a lot because I was like a bit distracted with like other stuff. And that just made it like go for a lot long, like even longer than it already was. So like it just felt like a really long slog to get through. But like that being said, like yeah, everyone's kind of already said it. Like good acting, like it is an interesting story, and I think the fact that it's true makes it even more interesting because it's like kind of teaching a little bit about what actually went on as well. But yeah, as Chris said, if it was in like 3 parts, if this was like a Netflix miniseries or something, I reckon I personally would have enjoyed it more than I did.
Okay.
So, I'll get into a couple of things about it.
Yeah. Just go for it, Josh, because I have some questions about the story that I want to be filled in.
Cool. And I probably won't get into a lot of story stuff just yet. I'll go through a lot of themes and why I think I don't mind the length, because I do agree this is a long movie and it is a slow movie, and I 100% you guys would think that, and think those criticisms are valid in a lot of ways. But I think what this movie represents to me is, because it's not about the Zodiac Killer, this film. It's about the obsession that comes from it, from a police perspective and a media perspective. And they go through it several times. And I know M has. I don't know if anyone else has watched that Netflix series, Don't Fuck with Cats.
Yes, I have. And I really
this movie is the
absolutely
2007 version of that, because this guy, Robert. So there's a very specific scene that I want to point you to, is when, when Jake Gyllenhaal's character solves the cipher with his kids after like 4 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
They hadn't heard from the Zodiac for 4 years up until this point. And then they start hearing from him like a week later, not even a week later. this whole movie is about how like people's obsession with these sort of things is actually what drives them. And I think very specifically with how the Zodiac MO went, it was all about the attention. It was that was all it was ever about. That's why he got away with it for so long, because he just killed random people because he wanted people to know about it, and he wanted people to sort of chase him down. And I think the elongated runtime for me represents like, or at least shows the downward spiral of these characters who may have had good intentions at the start, but didn't realize that they were becoming the problem down the line. And they were the ones bearing this on, and they were his motivation. And you've got to think, like, did someone get killed because Robert Downey Jr.'s character thought it was a smart idea to taunt the killer in the press? Like, these people have to... There would be some level of culpability for these people that we don't really recognize. And I think the film itself, like, sort of paints that picture in a pretty good way. The acting's phenomenal, as you guys said. Everything... The cinematography is insane. This is actually the movie that I thought of, Adam, when I was thinking of this and The Social Network. Remember when I said that David Fincher would be the only one to be able to direct the trial of the Chicago 7?
Yes. And I could
this is the one I was
absolutely agree with
watching, because I was like, there's one scene in this film that is one of my favorite scenes in any film ever, because the way David Fincher as a director builds tension in a scene where there's literally nothing happening is crazy. And it's the basement scene where he goes to see that guy.
This 100%. This was the only part of the film that gave me literal chills. I hated everything about this from start to finish. Sorry, continue.
No. That was the exact reaction.
Absolutely.
Because the first time I saw this, I saw it in 2007, because growing up in high school, I was the biggest David Fincher fan you would ever meet. And I saw this film, and I was liking it the whole way through, but not really high tolerance, that sort of thing. And I remember this scene hitting, and I was like, oh, fuck, what is going to happen here? And it just... Like, you got that pit of the stomach feeling, and
so
it's
just to clarify this whole scene, it definitely was sort of implying that this guy could have been the killer. Why was he totally written off?
Because he wasn't the killer. Like, there was evidence to suggest that he wasn't the killer. But it was also another throwback to what I said about the obsession with it, because it wasn't just the three people we saw, it was also the public. And the media portrayal of the Zodiac killer is what allowed a lot of the copycats to happen. So this guy probably wanted to pretend like he was the Zodiac.
Right. So,
and the fact that he was giving evidence that sort of implied that he was, if you know what I mean. Because remember how he's like, oh no, I wrote the posters. Like, this guy is just someone who wants to be recognized.
Chilling. And then it's like, not a lot of houses have basements here.
Yeah.
And then they go downstairs, and I'm like, he's dead. This is how it ends. The whole time it was like, I was on the edge. That was so well done. The suspense, the acting, everything about it, the hallways, the choice of house.
I think when I was film studies in uni, they actually showed us that scene for like building tension, because it's from nothing really. It's just really well written dialogue, really well paced shooting, and
Okay, so my only other and I guess like this is just the way that they obviously told the Anthony Lee to act. Was he definitely came off like he wasn't all there in that scene at the metalworks or wherever he was working, and I guess it was, for me, their depiction of the character in real life compared to a guy who could write ciphers and send it into the team or send it into the reporting officers. Just for whatever reason, I think that I guess like maybe that was the point, but that choice of the character.
What, you didn't think he came off smart enough? Is that what you...
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of...
So I think that was one of the big things that Jake Gyllenhaal's character kept talking about, is these ciphers aren't actually that hard.
Right.
Like, remember, he kept saying it over and over again, you just need to go to the library and read these certain books, and they're all there. That's why a school teacher did it. That's why a bunch of kids did it.
Okay.
But that was my impression. Like he was someone who wanted to appear smart. He always wanted to appear better than he was. And I think the fact of where he was working and the situation he was in with basically being called a pedophile, wasn't he? I believe that was the
Yes.
thing. That's why he was working in the metalworks.
Yes. That's correct.
Is someone who wants to appear better than what their sort of status in life is.
Okay.
That would be my impression. And I think in M's review, she referenced Mindhunter. Is it
Hunter?
Mindhunter? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's another one of David Fincher's works. And he plays off... who's the main serial killer in the first season they interview?
Oh.
Ed Kemper? Is that who it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
He plays Ed Kemper very, very similar. Of someone who... Their idea of their own genius is quite exasperated, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emily and Chris, do you guys have any other thoughts on the film and like why it didn't maybe click for you guys besides like the length of the film?
No, that's all I've got for it. There was nothing else other than just a little bit long. So.
Okay.
And I've got nothing else either.
Okay. Cool.
It is. I will even admit it is definitely too long. Like this could have been a 5-star movie for me, but it's definitely not.
One thing I think would have gone a long way is if it had a good soundtrack, but it doesn't. The soundtrack is totally forgettable. There's not like a single, like even like the foreboding music was nothing that stood out to me as like amazing.
I thought it was scored fine, but there wasn't exactly a soundtrack that
No.
was memorable.
All right. Well, let's not linger. No one watched anything else this week. I didn't even mention that at the start, did we? Nothing.
Definitely nothing worth mentioning. No.
All right. Nice, short and quick episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Film School Podcast, where we talk about the two main topics of the week because we haven't watched anything else. I think we're all just getting back into the swing of things. Again, next week we are watching 2 films, and those films are Sweet River and The Merger, both Australian films on Netflix. We record every Wednesday night. You can watch us live on our YouTube channel because I have now figured out how to stream directly live and straight onto YouTube. Or any other podcast services. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks so much, guys, and we will see you next week. See, that's where you guys are supposed to say, see you guys.
Bye.
I'm also looking forward to the YouTube thing when we stuff up the start 3 times for the live one. That'll be good.
Oh, yeah, can't wait for that.
Yeah, I also didn't record it, so I'm really hoping this works.